Hey everybody, my name is Lorin. I'm the Director of Quality and Compliance at Convoy. Um, Little about my background. I've been in transportation and logistics all my life. I did it in the military. I've done it for shippers, carriers. I was at Starbucks before I went to Convoy about 5 years ago. And in my role currently, as Director of Quality and Compliance, I manage our team that really looks at the motor carriers we work with, and we ensure that they're safe, they're compliant with our regulations. We're going to talk a lot more about that today. The quality performance of those carriers, and deal with a lot of legal and regulatory stuff as well. And I'm here with Alicia today, and we're talking as well. And if you want to do a brief intro of yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Ruiz. I work with Johanson Transportation Service. We are a non-asset 3PL here in Fresno, California, our corporate headquarters anyway. I am in my 14th year here with the company. I actually started in the accounting department and kind of just slowly but surely worked my way up until the so-called carrier relations compliance department became a thing about 10 years ago. My title here is VP of Corporate Operations and Legal Affairs. I am one of those hats. In a family-owned company, you wear many hats, as most of you know. One of those responsibilities that I oversee is the carrier relations and compliance department. So whether it's, carrier vetting, onboarding, compliance, and maintenance, you name it. Seems simple, right? But with all those tasks, there's quite a few things that we'll get deeper into, like Lorin said, later on. So glad to meet all of you.
For sure. And then maybe I'll throw one back at you, and then I can respond to this as well. But obviously, we're both in roles, senior roles at our company, focused on safety and on vetting carriers and doing all of those things. Why, for Johanson, why is that important to your company? Why do they have somebody like you doing it? Why do they have other people, a team doing this kind of function?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you, right? Carriers are the lifeblood of our industry. And it's all about how we manage the risk for our company. So you tie those two together, and we really have to understand that carriers need us just as much as we need them. We play a vital role for shippers, in arranging their transportation from point A to point B. It takes a senior individual to manage all of the factors that go into those specifics, whether it's layering our own company, protecting ourselves from risks that may come when hiring a carrier, protecting ourselves from bad actors, protecting ourselves from plaintiffs' attorneys, and just making sure that our business operations keep moving forward. So it's important to have somebody who is competent, understands not only just the everyday principles, but also, like you mentioned earlier, the regulatory and the legal arena as well. Because there's a lot that goes into it. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think for us, it's been really foundational to what we provide as a service. I think for a lot of folks, we play in this traditional arena as an intermediary, and are known as a digital freight network. But at the end of the day, no matter how sexy or cool the tech is, we're providing transportation as a service. And so our customers want to know that when that the network of trucks they're accessing is going to be professional and safe and perform well, and they want to know that when Joe or Sue shows up at their dock, that driver is going to be safe. And I think we both know, and probably a lot of the folks listening know, that there's lots of risks in transportation. And it seems to be like more and more every passing year. It's a more litigious environment. There's negligent hiring and vicarious liability, and brokers and shippers are getting pulled into things. And so we want to work with great carriers, and we want to provide that service to our shippers, and really, and I'm sure it's the same with you, like build trust in service we're providing them. And I think, we use technology to do that, but we also use really good people, knowledgeable people that have done it for a long time and know this stuff. And I think, when it comes to, you've done it for a long time, when it comes to regulatory stuff, there's a lot to having deep knowledge of the industry. And so we also think it's important to have good people doing that and watch for us and our customers.
Yeah, I mean, people are our biggest assets, right? And if we don't,
Exactly.
have a good group of people working for us, then, our business isn't successful whatsoever. You know, it's funny you mentioned, liability and stuff, because when you talk about negligent selection of vicarious liability, we have to work so hard to educate our people on what the shipper demands as well. Because when you get into contractual relationships, that is just a whole another segment of, the carrier compliance and monitoring department, because you really have to be able to pivot to your customer demands and get carriers in your network that can fulfill all those requirements.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And it's interesting because there's so many, as a broker, you're in a digital freight network. It's managing not only FMCSA regulations, DOT regulations, but it's also in doing that selection, but then also all of the nuances of all of your customers who have potentially different requirements as well. And then those requirements differ by industry and.
Right. Yeah. So on that note, what is your general approach there at Convoy to carrier vetting and managing their safety?
Yeah. I think for us, because we're very much we're a technology-driven, data-driven company, we lean really heavily on that part of it. And so for us, it starts with access to great data and aggregating that. It's using our own data. It's using third-party monitoring services, a number of those, and we have integrations with those. It's analysis to set the right standards and the good standards, and figuring out what those standards are that helps us, meet our obligation as a broker. But the bar there is quite low. But then also go above and beyond that and take additional measures to do these things we want to do. One of I think our approach is two-pronged. One, we just announced recently some innovation in the machine learning space, where we take lots of data and aggregate that data, thousands of inputs over millions of sort of data fields over a long history, and use that to correlate those inputs with crash risk. And so we're using that as sort of a way to, for a long time, I think the tools and resources that intermediaries have or shippers have to vet carriers, it's difficult. They're tough because they're limited in their scope, and the FMCSA program wasn't designed as a carrier selection tool, just designed for the FMCSA for enforcement officials to intervene. And so we've gone about it a little differently, and we look at all of those things, but then we use this machine learning model to help us assess carrier crash risk, and then we have some automation that basically takes those requirements and takes the output of the model and helps us select in real time which carriers are compliant with our requirements, and that helps us react as that data is changing. A carrier might one day be fine, and the next day they might be out of service, or their insurance might have expired. And so by checking all of this stuff frequently, we can really keep up with it and sort of keep ahead of it for our customers. And then I think just continuing to try to innovate in that space and stay ahead of it is how we've sort of approached it. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so automation is key, right? None of us are going to survive if we don't, keep a handle on what technology brings us. For us, it is being diligent day in and day out in our processes. I think we found that what's kept us out of hot water is developing policies and procedures to not just vet carriers and bring them on board, but also keep them, active in our system. And part of our longevity here is a true testament to our company, but is developing relationships. Well, how do you do that in a very digitized world now, right? That's hard. Because, you have customers demanding transparency and you have carriers wanting everything quick, but you still have to make sure you're bringing on carriers in your network that are, you're selecting carriers in your network that are safe. So that for us, that looks like, vetting procedurally wise. We partner with quite a few third parties. We have a very brilliant proprietary system that, through machine learning and automation really helps speed up the process. And then sticking to the procedures that integrate through all of our systems to keep those carriers active and, Yeah, the FMCSA regulations, that it's not our job to dictate whether or not a carrier is safe or not. That's the government's job. So we do battle with that on the daily basis, and that's hard to educate your customers of that, right? I'm sure you battle with that all the time. And you're right, insurance companies, educating them, that's, I find a lot of my time monthly is spent educating, insurance providers and, you know, DOT officials and just on our business and how it operates and how a carrier can be fined 1 minute and then the next minute they've lost their authority because they didn't renew their insurance or whatever the case is. So
Yeah,
it's really
absolutely.
all over the board. Until you get into our business, nobody really understands the carrier side. That's
We
why I
we
love
brought
it.
in we brought in a bunch of our underwriters and potential underwriters this last year. This was before COVID happened, and did like a full day session with them actually because we found there was just so many questions and so many. It was really interesting. We ended up having a great. It was a great event, and I think it really helped our some of the underwriters we work with or that we might work with understand our approach and kind of the market better. I was going to ask what kind of challenges have you guys been facing in this area, or like what is there anything sort of unique that we're in sort of a unique time with COVID right now? Anything that looks different to you now, or that is popping up as something you're trying to address right now?
Yeah, it's hard, right? COVID has thrown a wrench in every one of our processes here at work. I think for the carrier standpoint, it's important that they understand how much we trust in them, how much we value them each and every day, because the customers right now, their demands are changing too due to COVID. Whether, before we have developed partnerships with carriers who are very familiar with arriving to certain shippers and being able to be on the dock and watch the loading, and now all that's changed. They're not even allowed in, once out of their truck at some instances, or they're just handed their bill of lading with a glove or in a bucket. So there's a lot of ever changing. We've just had to adjust very quickly, whether it's the carrier demands or whether it's the customer relationship, and really open back up. What I like about COVID is really opened up the communication. Before, a lot of the automation took some of that away. And like I mentioned earlier, it's some of our challenges, but now we're communicating. The carriers are calling us and we're talking to them. How are you feeling? What are you doing? So I really feel like it's brought a lot of personalization back into the industry that we have lost with technology.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That made me think of something that I think we've had to also be really nimble and sort of adjust on the fly with our customers. For instance, we had lots of we have customers who are moving, especially when there was sort of spikes in buying patterns. We had customers who were moving critical supplies like water or other things. And we also had states at the same time who were adjusting or lifting some restrictions. For instance, one of those was weight. And so like a state by state, there was differences in like how much weight you could haul in a shipment. And you're having to really on a day by day basis, try to work between and really act as a resource for our shipping customers and our carriers who we very much rely on as well and have great, want to have great relationships with to help manage that interaction between and figure out all of those moving pieces, which has been really unique.
Yeah, I mean the weight the lift of that restriction, the hours of service, and certain, with certain carriers, and then really what we noticed as a huge pitfall for a lot of our carriers was when they closed a lot of the truck stops. We really leveraged at that point a lot of our third-party vendors to help us navigate. Where can our carriers go? Calling other shippers, hey, you're in this area, can our carrier come there? So it really went back, like I said, to the relationship, the value of that relationship, and really going back to carrier selection, why it is so important in this industry to develop relationships. Just through automation, yes, it makes us nimble, it makes our jobs efficient, but never forget the core value of building those relationships with carriers, because in times like this, it really does count. And our customers count on that too, and they're starting to see a lot of that. They're starting to understand, like, wow, you guys really do have a network of carriers that care about you as much as you care about them. So it's really helped full circle.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it'd be fun to talk for a minute about kind of what we see as the future of managing safety vetting carriers in this space. It's changing all the time, and for those of us that are deep into this, I'm sure you have got a lot of thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, every day we come to work because this job's challenging, right? We love it. Every day's different. That's one of my biggest motivators about coming to work every morning. I love coming into a different, arena and what's going to be, positioned in front of us. But I think adapting to technology is never going to change. We are going to be, whether it's competitive technology, whether it's in-house or whether it's with our vendors. I think just being able to pivot and adapt to the new advancements in technology is going to be critical, and it won't stop. Just flex, along with that comes flexibility and customer demands. As we're becoming more sophisticated with technology, so are they. It kind of felt for a while shippers were a little behind the curve when it came to technology, but they're starting to catch up. When you're dealing with a virtual world and you have the Ubers of the world, you have to keep up with those demands. And when a customer is ready, you best be ready. You best be in front of the curve because otherwise you're going to be out. And then coaching your carriers through that. We can deal with a one-stop shop carrier up to a fleet of 500 or more, and you have to be able to have the resources and capabilities in house to manage that, whatever that looks like, whatever that landscape poses in front of you. So, a few years ago, it really worried me because we saw so many drivers leave the industry, whether it was because of the regulatory environment. And what I felt got lost was trucking was a way of life. Now it's really just a job. And so that scared me. But as, technology advanced and you seek new ways of dealing with automation and, these regional drivers that want to be home at night, you just find ways to adapt, and the shippers have too. And it just makes it that much more fun. So yes, sometimes the future is a little unsettling, but it's also exciting to see what else we can do, right?
Yeah,
What do you guys?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, specifically to carrier vetting, safety assessment, I think that the path we've been going down of using deep, rich sources of data, using automation, really when we're trying to do this at scale, it's these approaches and like using machine learning, using automation to like do these assessments in real time before every load. I think that's really not that many folks have that capability yet, but I definitely think that's where the industry should be going because it allows us as intermediaries to play a really important role, which is to help make the industry safer and do that better for our customers. And then I think you made a good point about, for motor carriers, there's also I think being a great partner to them and using technology to not just do great stuff for our shippers, but also give them great tools and resources, help them run a better business, help them in these challenging times be more efficient, is super important. And so we're really striving to do that. And it sounds like you guys are doing a great job of that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. The carrier cost is not going down by any means. Their costs every day are just increasing. So, as you value them and realize how important those relationships are, they value you and they look to us, to help them with resources and information and luckily we're all part of a broader association to the TIA that helps with a lot of that advocating in DC and partnerships through FreightWaves and many other companies, that help and assist us in that process because, like I said, they are the lifeblood of our business. So without them, we wouldn't be here, and our shippers would have a heck of a time finding any transportation providers.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. It was great to talk to you.
All day.
I know we could probably go for hours, but I don't think they're going to let us. So
no, definitely not.
All right. Thanks for whoever joined us today. We appreciate it and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Take care.